Welcome back for the 100th time to the Degrassi Kid podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited to sit down with you and talk about your podcast, something that I have been a guest on several times before. And today we're doing this episode because we are no longer going to be partnering together on the Degrassi Kid Network because your podcast is all grown up now.
It is. I'm about to start my season two soon. I'm very excited. The partnership was a great way to kind of launch my season one, but it'll be exciting to kind of go off onto my own path in season two. I know you'll
Always.
still be supportive, always, obviously, and I know that you'll still be a guest, obviously. But yeah, we're switching things up in 2025.
Yeah, I feel like I'm Mr. Radich and you're Joey Jeremiah graduating on to the next year.
I haven't seen that happen yet at all, so
Spoiled ya!
spoiled ya. Jolly Jeremiah is not going to be in eighth grade the whole time, huh, Angel?
I will always support your podcast and your creativity forever and ever. And from you specifically, we will finish out your first season. But what I wanted to do today was hype up your podcast, give it one last final hurrah. So to get us started, Evie, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are.
I am EeveePacini. I am a 26-year-old Degrassi fan. I've been a Degrassi fan for as long as I've been conscious of like being a person, basically. I feel like I started watching the show when I was around 7 or 8 years old. So just as long as I've been a person with opinions, my opinion has been that Degrassi is great. So yeah, and I have a podcast called Degrassi Schools In where I am watching Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High for the first time. So it's a fun little experience.
I love this. And so you basically gained consciousness the moment you saw JT York get stabbed, is what you're telling me.
Basically, well, yeah, no, I was in love with him first, and then I watched him get stabbed,
And then
which
you
is
watched him
my
get stabbed.
Degrassi origin story.
And that's what I wanted to hear next. I'm already familiar with it as your super fan and best friend, but can you tell us how you got into Degrassi? How'd you find the show?
Absolutely, yeah. So I have a sister who is 3 years older than me, who was more of the target audience when I was 7 or 8 years old. She was, you know, 3 years older than that. Don't make me do math. Uh, so she was watching Degrassi The Next Generation, and I wanted to be able to watch TV with her. And she was getting to that age where she didn't really necessarily want her little sister hanging around, but watching Degrassi, sitting and watching and being quiet was a way that I could coexist with her. So I started watching the show. I fell in love with JT York. She knew what was going to happen. She tormented me with the fact that JT dies, and I just felt so genuinely emotionally impacted by that moment that it just made me really seek out more feeling that way, feeling so attached to a character that they felt real. And it just made me realize kind of the power of media, made me more interested
Mhm.
in writing, made me more interested in TV, and just all kind of created this whirlwind of creativity and inspiration and emotion. And just, yeah, that's my Degrassi origin story, basically. It's just, it made me feel a bunch of stuff and it made me want to create a bunch of stuff. And to this day, it's still my biggest creative inspiration.
I feel like we have a very similar origin story. It was my cousin who introduced me to the show. I had my big impactful moment that made me want to learn more about it. I also went to film school to learn more about screenwriting because I love Degrassi. So
Yeah.
I think we're quite literally just the same person in different
Yeah,
fonts.
yeah. I don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah, I did. I went to film school. I was absolutely in love with, at the time, Degrassi Next Class, and I was going to school, applying to schools, and during my first year of college, studying screenwriting and film and all of that kind of stuff was when Degrassi Next Class officially got canceled. So that was a little stab in my heart, but I still kept going and I got my degree and I studied it and I know so much about film and TV now and I wouldn't know all of that about film and TV. I don't think if Degrassi had been such a huge inspiration. Obviously, I love other properties and other media, but
Mm.
Degrassi is just different, and I know you understand that completely. Like we
Oh, I
both
get
love
it.
other things, but not to the degree that we love Degrassi.
There will never be anything like Degrassi.
There will
I wouldn't.
never be.
I don't have enough room in my house to have another obsession like
I
Degrassi.
know. Yeah, no, my room is a lot less Degrassi focused than yours is, but I still have Degrassi stuff all
Everywhere.
over the place. And yeah, I don't have room to love anything in my heart or my house as much as Degrassi.
I want to know the story of how do you go from being, a 7-year-old girl who casually watches the show to having a podcast dedicated to it? What made you want to start
Yeah.
your podcast?
I have been in the Degrassi fandom for as long as I've been on the internet pretty much as well. So I was
Mm,
on like theend.com and Tumblr and all of that. And I always enjoyed consuming content about Degrassi. So it just kind of felt like a natural progression to start creating stuff. I wrote fan fiction. I have always just kind of made creative things about Degrassi, and I've enjoyed listening to podcasts and stuff like that.
mm.
So for me, it one just felt like a natural progression because I am a creative person and I enjoy creating and I enjoy consuming, but also it feels like there was a little bit of a gap in the content world for Degrassi. I don't really feel like there's that many people watching Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High for the first time. So it felt like why not give people that experience of being able to listen to me watching it for the first time and document it myself. I produce things all the time, so why not produce a podcast?
I love that. And if someone right now they leave this podcast, they go listen to yours, what is something that you think they are going to like about that podcast to take away from it?
I think the fresh perspective as somebody, particularly as somebody who is so well versed in the rest of the show,
Mm,
I think I bring, and you and I and my guests, and like I've listened to my own episodes and been like, one of the things that I feel like is really strong is drawing those parallels and bringing those parallels from later seasons of Degrassi into those older seasons. And just, I don't know, I think it's a nice fresh perspective, but not a fresh perspective from somebody who knows nothing. Like I
mm.
know so much about the world of Degrassi, but I just don't know this portion of it. So I think it's nice because I feel like a lot of the stuff that's like, oh, watching this for the first time is coming at it from like a completely blank slate, which I think can be very interesting. But I think coming at it from a blank slate as somebody who knows everything else about Degrassi pretty much and has been to Degrassi Junior High, has been to Degrassi High, has had those experiences and can speak firsthand about it and bring you in and all that kind of stuff. It's a really
Mm.
unique perspective, in my opinion. And I am very proud of the perspective that I put forward in my podcast, honestly.
Yeah, that's one of the things I am the most interested in talking to you about too, is like when it's so cool when you're watching the original to now be able to talk about the stuff that we know in Degrassi Junior High, even as
Yeah.
simple as like the references, or sorry, the stuff that happens in Degrassi The Next Generation, even as simple
Yep.
as the references that get brought up, the character dynamics, the parallels that we see. Caitlin and Rick is so like Sean and Emma. Even later, Joey becomes so Craig. Being able to talk to a Degrassi super fan and have you learn new things while being able to correlate it with something else, I think is a really, really unique twist in your podcast, like you said. I really, really like that. If you had to pick one episode that you think best represents your podcast, what do you think is the
Yeah.
episode that really stands out?
It's funny because I would usually say the first episode, Kiss Me Steph, is a good starter. Like it is genuinely just like a solid episode. I would actually say the next episode that I have coming out is probably like peak Degrassi School's in. Like I think it is probably the It's Late episode. I should probably specify what episode it is. It's Late, which will be coming out very soon. I don't know the release schedule of if it'll be out before this comes out or what the case is, but
Mhm.
my episode It's Late with you. First of all, I just think that is the best episode of Degrassi Junior High so far, and I feel like everything's been building to that point, and I feel like listening to me talk about It's Late has a very good, interesting retrospective of the entire season so far and my feelings on the entire season so far and all of that. I feel like if you listen to It's Late, my episode on It's Late, you get a lot of my feelings wrapped up from the whole season, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think my season finale also, which is coming up, Revolution, Parents' Night, all of my episodes that are coming up soon, I'm really proud of and I feel like really wrap up the season. And I feel like in general, the show, wrap up the season very nicely versus the earlier episodes feel more individual, a
Yeah.
little more like individual experiences. So I would say Kiss Me, Steph, or It's Late to make a very long answer short.
No, I love that. I feel two ways. One, I like that every episode of your podcast is really unique because you have a different guest for it. So it doesn't feel like it feels like you're getting a new, fresh perspective from you and from the person that you're watching it with is really cool. You have unique dynamics with each person you talk to. But also,
Absolutely.
It's Late was my favorite to record with you and work on with you because that's the one episode from the first season that you have any type of idea about. Like, you know that this is going to end up, Spike is going to end up being pregnant. Spike is going to keep
Yeah.
her baby, and that baby's going to become Emma. It's really the first time where the stakes of TNG were involved. So, what I liked that we did that time is you and I sat down beforehand and we talked out what kind of prediction you have. What do you think? How quickly is this storyline going to go by? Like, what is her dynamic with Shane going to be like? Who even is Shane? So
Yeah,
that was one of the things I think interesting about that is there was that added element of taking what you've learned so far about the show and what you already know and seeing how it applies to this legendary iconic
absolutely.
episode.
And I think that's going to happen more and more as the show has built because those
Mhm.
first 10 episodes or so are just really world building. And I've had a really good time experiencing those, but I feel like we're like really hitting the ground running now after it's late. And it's really like things are coming into play that come into play in the next generation. And I just feel a lot more connected, like
Yeah,
to this latter half of the season, and I'm really excited to get into season two. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm seeing what the hype is about when it comes to Grassy Junior High now, and
I
it's
like
making me
that.
want to get into it
I'm
more.
excited. I'm excited.
Me
I will be a
too.
guest anytime. As we're recording this, it is January 2025. We're on the fresh cusp of a brand new year. I'm curious if you have any podcast plans or goals that you'd like to share for 2025.
Absolutely. I would love to finish out season two of Degrassi Junior High. I think that's a very reasonable goal.
Hmm.
I already have my season one wrapped and ready to post, and we already have a schedule for those. I just need to get my guests in order. So getting that season two and getting onto like a really good production schedule
Hmm.
would be great because I think that's one of the things that I've struggled with the most in the past year. And that's just part of starting a podcast is figuring out
Yeah,
your flow. Like I'm not upset with myself at all for, I feel really proud of the flow and the pacing that I've gotten. And all I can do now is just improve on it. And that is my goal is to just improve and at least do as well as I did in this past year, if not better. So
I
get
love
that
that.
year.
I know you're
Yeah, I'm
crushing
proud of
it.
where I am, but
I'm proud of you for having you 3 episodes banked, which is absolutely
thank
crazy.
you.
And to clarify for everybody, because Evie's podcast has a full season story arc, yeah, we will be getting her last 3 episodes, which are apparently her best episodes. So cool
They
for us.
are, in my opinion, I feel like, and I'm really, really excited for the guests that I've got on for these last three episodes. They're some of my really closest friends, and I think it shows in the conversations.
Yeah, you've met all of us in real life.
I have, and I feel like that adds another level to it, and I really hope that I can get more of my friends. I will add another 2025 podcast goal, and it is to do an IRL episode, which would
Yes.
be awesome. Whether that, I know I have a local friend, Sawyer, who I could possibly bring my mic over and record with. He is a big Degrassi Junior High, Degrassi Classic fan, so that is
Mhm.
a possibility. But I also really hope that it happens on a con, like a convention or another like group hang that we have coming up in the future. Fingers crossed.
I
I would love to
agree.
record with a friend in real life. I feel like that would just have awesome chemistry, awesome flow, and just like a whole different thing than sitting here on a Zoom call.
I agree. Well, you and I have recorded an episode together in real life,
We have, and it was amazing. My
and it was amazing,
that's another one that I would actually recommend, Evie's Canadian Adventure with
which is really,
Degrassi
really
Kid.
fun.
We recorded it in PEI in a real recording studio, which was really cool. We were
And
sitting across from each other.
an international podcast now. I love it. But yeah, I
Yeah,
totally
I
agree.
do.
Going, one of my goals for myself is this year I want to visit Toronto and California, or at least one of those places, and hang out with Degrassi fans and Degrassi actors. So we'll see.
I would love to go to California once it's not on fire.
True. Okay, Evie Bassini,
But
if one Degrassi character was going to listen to your podcast and be a big, big fan, who do you think it would be and why?
I think Joey Jeremiah would love that I am talking about him. He would
Yes.
he would love that I have so much to say about him because every episode I have a different opinion on him. One episode I'm like, "Oh, he's such a sweetie pie." One episode I'm like, "Oh my gosh, he's such a bully." And I think he would just love that I have so many opinions about him. I think he would love that I perceive him so much.
Joey Jeremiah is definitely one of those characters that believes that any press is good press.
Yeah, no, he would not care if I'm like he's a scoundrel. He would love it.
He would love
He
it.
does not care what I'm saying about him. He just loves that I'm talking about him and I am talking about him.
Yeah, he's one of those kids where it's like, I think you're big trouble, and he's like, you think about me? You
Like,
talking about
really?
me?
Thank you.
Thank you so
Me?
much.
I think I think otherwise, I think Vula would maybe appreciate the fact that I'm giving her a spotlight and really thinking about her because she has my heart and I have a soft spot for her and I already know in season two she's gone.
I'm
But
sorry. You
I
are.
really enjoyed speculating about her and making up. I feel like I added a whole bunch of new lore to her that didn't exist before my podcast, and I've changed some people's minds about her.
You gotta
So
drop some Vula fanfic.
I do some Vulafic. I'm on it.
Some
Some
Vula fic.
Vula and Stephanie fanfic.
I'm into it. Uh, Biggest question of all. How can people find your podcast and support you?
I am Degrassi Schools In everywhere where podcasts can be found. I post my stuff on YouTube as well. I'm going to be trying to start YouTubing more in the new year, and I will have a link tree that I will get Degrassi Kid to link in the description of this where you can find me anywhere that you need to find me. So,
I
yeah,
got you.
Degrassi Schools In or EeveePacini, wherever. Find me, look me up, I'm probably there.
I'm probably there. I like that. Final question I have for you, Evie, is how has the Degrassi Kid Network made an impact on you?
Excuse me. The Degrassi Kid Network has been a great way to launch the first like year or so the season. Let me start that over. The Degrassi Kid podcast has been an awesome opportunity to kind of launch my first season or so of my podcast and just get some eyes, get some Degrassi community excitement on my projects. I feel like it has definitely changed the trajectory of my podcast in a very positive way. So I'm very glad that we were able to do this together. And I'm glad that we will still be able to support each other in other ways. This the support train isn't going anywhere. We're just
It's
changing it
not.
up. Yeah.
It's
So
just beginning.
it is choo
Awesome.
choo.
Choo choo. Evie Pacini, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a great friend to me. Thank you for so much for joining the network with me. It was something that I was experimenting with, had no idea where it was going to go. And now you're like all of three of your guys' podcasts, I think, are so well branded and have such a good community now that you just don't need me. So I'll go support some other fans who maybe need their own kickstart. And one of my favorite things about our friendship and our connection specifically is the fact that you and I both have pretty much the exact same hopes and dreams and goals in life. And instead of being in competition with each other, we support each other. Like you've been talking so much about wanting to do better at YouTube that now I want to do better at YouTube. And I know that kind of happens in reverse as well. So I'm very, very proud of us for being on the same path together. I love you for
Yeah,
it.
love you.
Yeah. Okay, the next time we're gonna hear from you, we're gonna hear It's Late featuring you and me. What's your favorite? Share one fun fact of something that people will love about that episode.
One of my favorite moments of that episode is when we are talking about Judy Shiner and you say the words Judy Shiner costume designer and I lose my mind and like peek the mic and just can't handle it. Um, just yeah, talking about the behind the scenes and praising Judy Shiner once again for her amazing work on the show, I think was really fun.
Would
So
there, as a special reward for our Patreon subscribers, they'll be hearing your It's Late episode very soon, but could you ever just send me that clip and I'll add it to this one so they can get a sneak preview?
I think I could arrange that.
Okay, Patreon
Um,
subscribers, you always get it the best before anyone else. This is a clip from Degrassi Schools In with Evie Pacini. We're gonna let you listen to it, but for now, we're gonna say bye, bye, Evie, bye, Panthers.
Bye, Panthers. She's hugging a little teddy bear.
Hugging a little
Ah.
teddy bear. I know, I thought that was so sweet. I loved, Judy Shiner, set designer. I loved, she
Judy
has this
Shiner
big
set
mirror.
designer. Judy Shiner set designer. Judy Shiner set designer. Sorry. Sorry.
We have a new vocal stim. We've entered a new vocal stim into the
Sorry. So
into the
sorry.
realm
I
here.
got so
No, I
excited.
love that. I love
Come
this is one
on.
of my favorite things about being friends with Evie is sometimes you can say something like four words and then she gets really excited about them. So
Judy
it's really
Shiner set
exciting.
designer. Okay.
Evie
What were
Shiner
you
set
saying?
designer. Gen
I'm like
Z's
tearing
Evie
up.
Shiner set designer.
I'm literally tearing
Yeah,
up.
Evie cries a lot.
I love you
Okay.
so much.
I want to say a
Love you.
huge thank you to members of the Degrassi Kid Patreon who have helped me support these podcasts in the Degrassi Kid Network. And don't worry, your Patreon subscriptions will continue to go supporting more people in our community. But first, I want to say a huge welcome to our brand new Patreon subscribers. Those are Layla Bell, Courtney, Mundo Man 333, D Scott, Sarah, The Wacky Deli. I hate your friends from TikTok. So good to see you. Jupiter, Tawny, Emily Simmons, Connor, Sarah, and Justine Sutter. Thank you so much for joining the Degrassi Kid Patreon. It means so much to me. And thanks to your support, we're able to help podcasts like the Bruce Mackey's Library podcast, New Year, New Look, New Podcast, and Degrassi Schools. And this is my cat who also wants to come say thank you. We're also sending our shout out to our repeat members, our consistent subscribers, Glenn, Jolene, Amber, Angelica, Degrassi CSI, Kylea, Nicholas, Sarah J, Shannon, Alyssa, Angie, Becca, Blueberry, Brittany, Katrina, Courtney, Dave, Evie, Gina, Jess, Joe, Joey, Catherine, Casey, Kennedy, Kristen, Laura, Lily, Lizzie, Megan, Mina, Nikki, Rachel, Racine, Sam, Stephanie, Taylor, Brittany, Jess, Lindsay, Randy, Alana, Chantel, Chrissy, Christopher, Emily, Honey, Jamie, Lizzie Games, Mackenzie Russell, Mike, Mix Lucy, Sarah, Shane, Sanita, and Tierney. Thank you so much for being a subscriber on the Degrassi Kid Patreon. I love you, and I'll see you next time.